The 212th. The men who followed Kenobi. Before we dive into the individual clones, we gotta talk about what made the 212th Attack Battalion special. This wasn't just a unit, it was Obi-Wan-Kenobi's personal battalion. That already tells you a lot. These clones were sharp, smart, loyal, and probably had to deal with more half-baked battle plans than they'd like. Yeah, thanks to General Kenobi's wild force improvising, they fought in some of the hardest battles of the Clone Wars. From Umbara to the Battle of Christophsis, Geonosis, and of course, the Siege of Utapau. They were always right in the middle of the storm. Now, leading the clone side of the 212th was none other than Commander Cody. Yeah, that Cody, the guy who was ride or die for Kenobi, until he wasn't. But we'll get to Cody in a second. Right now, we're gonna go through every named clone in this battalion, and if you think they're all the same helmet and voice, think again. These boys had flavor. There's no doubt about that. Starting with the big name. Commander Cody, the loyalist who fell. Let's be real, Cody is him. This guy was not just a clone commander, he's the commander of the 212th. The guy standing right next to Obi-Wan is just about every major Clone Wars campaign, and he's not just tagging along either. Cody's running logistics, calling shots, coordinating air support, all while dodging blaster bolts and vibing in orange and white armor that became straight up iconic. And speaking of armor, Cody's gear has that visor attachment, right? That little thing is more than just a flex. It's a macro binocular rangefinder, showing just how tactical he was. Dude was built for battlefield awareness. Now here's the part that stings. Cody didn't just fight alongside Kenobi, he trusted him. You see that bond during the war. They've got jokes, they cover each other's backs, there's actual friendship there. And then, Order 66. That one moment changed everything. He gets a call from Palpatine.
Execute Order 66.
No hesitation. He turns and tells his men to shoot Kenobi off a cliff like it's nothing. And that's what makes Cody's story hurt more than most. Because it wasn't personal, it wasn't hate, it was the chip. Cold, silent, unstoppable. That same loyalty Cody had used to protect his general, it got flipped to kill him. That's tragic. And what makes it worse? We don't see Cody again in the movies. Just gone. But if you watch The Bad Batch, Cody's story gets a second wind. He starts asking questions. He starts waking up. And for a clone like Cody, that moment of doubt, that means everything. Long shot. The 212th's quiet marksman. So not every clone in the 212th had flashy armor or a wild arc. Some were just deadly quiet and insanely efficient. That's Longshot for you. You don't hear a lot about him. And maybe that's fitting. Dude's a sniper. He's not the type to shout across comms or take lead in group charges. He's the kind of clone who finds a perch, locks in, and doesn't miss. You spot him during the Battle of Christophsis, one of the earliest major fights in the Clone Wars. He's doing his thing, perched, scoped in, and covering the team while they move forward. Total ghost. Design-wise, his armor's subtle. 212th colors, sure, that orange-yellow but no big customizations. Just clean gear, visor down, laser focused. Kinda like the clone version of a silent anime swordsman. Favorite weapon? Easy, the DC-15X sniper rifle. Long barrel, long range, precise. One shot, one drop. You don't give a clone the call sign Longshot unless he's that guy. And while there's not a ton of screen time for him, the fact that he's remembered at all says a lot. In a battalion packed with big personalities and tragic arcs, Longshot was always steady. He was the clone you needed watching your back when things got loud. Gearshift, the tech head you didn't know you needed. Now let's talk about one of the most underappreciated clones in the 212th, Gearshift. Now look, not every clone gets the spotlight. Some stay in the background, doing the grunt work, the tech fixes, and the boring stuff. But Gearshift, this guy had style and brains. First of all, let's talk about the helmet. Man's rocking a clean, high-contrast design white base with dark orange panels, but what really stands out is the custom paint. His armor looks like someone who actually cares about his gear. Practical, but with flavor. He's seen during Season 4, Episode 7 of the Clone Wars. Right there with Cody and the boys. Not front and center, but he's part of the squad holding it down. Now, based on what we do see, Gearshift seems like the guy who'd be good with tech. The name alone screams engineer or mechanic. Probably the dude who'd patch up a broken comm system in the middle of a gunfight or reroute power through a downed ATTE with nothing but a datapad and some duct tape. And you can tell that he's calm, doesn't talk much, just gets the job done. He's not a main character in terms of screen time, but here's the thing with clones. Sometimes the one who say the least are the ones who keep the mission from falling apart. That's Gearshift. Bole, the tough guy with a soft spot. Alright, time to give Bole his full moment. You probably remember him as Waxer's partner in crime, especially during the Rylith arc. And yeah, that episode with Numa really shows a different side of him. At first, he's all business, kinda grumpy, not exactly thrilled to be babysitting, but by the end, man's fully locked in, risking his neck to protect a scared little girl. That's Bole in a nutshell. Tough exterior, big heart underneath. Armor-wise, Boyle's look is sleek and efficient. He rolls with the standard 212 scheme, but there's often this heavier plate vibe to him, like he's built for durability. He's not the fastest clone on the field, but he's gonna be the last one standing. Weapon of choice? Usually the DC-15A blaster rifle. Solid, heavy firepower. He doesn't do fancy shots, he just lays down serious cover fire when things go sideways. But the real thing with Bole is loyalty. To his brothers, to the mission, and once you've earned his respect, he'll fight for you till the end. And yeah, after Waxer's death on Umbara, Bole's character hits different. You can feel the weight. It's not just another loss. That was his boy, his closest friend, and the war just took him. Bole survived, but you can bet he was never quite the same. Wooly, the fast-talking Chaos clone. Now, if the 212th had a guy who brought energy like actual caffeine and armor type energy, it was Wooly. You can catch him during the Battle of Kadavo in the Clone Wars, and right away you know this clone's got attitude. He talks fast, moves fast, and doesn't really have that "let me think about it" pause a lot of the others do. Nah, Wooly's already charging ahead. His armor keeps the 212th colors, but it's scuffed. Like, this guy's seen action. A lot of it. You can tell he's the type who doesn't want for backup. He is the backup. He's the kind of trooper who probably gets under Cody's skin, but still gets results. You need someone to breach a door with no plan? Wooly's your guy. Need someone to distract a whole droid platoon while the rest of the squad flanks? He's already on it before you finish the sentence. And yeah, it's never confirmed, but fans low-key think Wooly might have been one of the few who made it out after Order 66. You can totally imagine him disappearing into the Outer Rim, laying low, still fighting in his own chaotic way. Also, his voice lines? Gold. If you listen close, he drops some of the funniest, most off-script clone banter in his episodes. It's subtle, but it adds that little bit of human spark you don't expect in the middle of a fight. That's Wooly. Fast, loud, effective, and yeah, unforgettable. Oppo. 212th? 501st? Let's set the record straight. Okay, so let's just clear up one of the most debated clone mix-ups out there. Oppo. Now technically, Oppo is listed as part of the 501st Legion, Anakin's boys. You see him loud and clear during Order 66, helping lead the assault on the Jedi Temple. Cold moment, stone-faced, no hesitation. But here's where it gets tricky. In earlier Clone Wars material, especially before everything was locked in under canon, Oppo was linked to the 212th. Some sources even placed him alongside Commander Cody at certain points, leading to this long-running debate about where did Oppo really serve? So which is it? Honestly, both. Kinda. The best theory is that Oppo might have transferred units. It wasn't unheard of, especially for clones who showed leadership potential or had specialized skill sets. And Oppo, he had that quiet enforcer vibe. The kind of clone who didn't ask questions, just executed. Design-wise, he's got that clean blue 501st stripe over white armor. Helmet slick and polished. No extra markings, no nicknames painted on, just blank. Like he chose to erase the individuality. And when Order 66 hits, he's in full execution mode. You can tell he believes in the mission. No chip resistance, no hesitation, just total locked-in obedience. Whether you see him as a 212th clone who got pulled into something bigger or a 501st loyalist all the way, Oppo's presence hits hard, because he reminds you just how far the clones fell when the war ended. Trapper, the quiet survivor of Utapau. Let's bring up a name that flies under the radar. Trapper. He doesn't have a big arc. No emotional send-off, no dramatic betrayal, but Trapper's story hits because of where he shows up and how he holds it down. You see Trapper in the Clone Wars, during the Siege of Utapau, one of the final, pivotal battles of the Clone Wars, the same place where Obi-Wan went head-to-head with General Grievous. Now the thing with Trapper is, he's kind of a background beast. He's there, he's fighting, he's following orders, no flashy armor mods, no custom helmet art. Just a standard orange 212 design and that look of pure focus, like a clone who knows what's coming but keeps marching forward anyway. He's the kind of trooper that doesn't question much, not because he's a drone, but because he's seen enough to know that the only way to survive is to keep moving. The really interesting part? There's some subtle nods that Trapper might have been one of the last survivors of that whole campaign. Like, think about it, Grievous is dead, Obi-Wan gets betrayed by Cody, the chaos starts, but Trapper? He just vanishes from records. It makes you wonder, did he make it out? Did he go underground like Rex? Did he keep serving under the Empire? Nobody knows, but that mystery, it makes Trapper kinda haunting. A clone who fought through everything and maybe slipped through the cracks. Jet, the 212th Tactical Hammer. Now we're getting into heavy hitter territory. Let's talk about Clone Commander Jet, not to be confused with the Jet from the 41st. This Jet? 212th through and through. You meet him in the Clone Wars Geonosis arc, specifically during the second Battle of Geonosis, and from the second he shows up, you can tell Jet's not messing around. He's leading flame troopers. Yeah, you heard that right, flame units. While most clones are out there with blasters and grenades, Jet's out here clearing Geonosian hives with fire. Brutal, efficient, zero room for error. That alone tells you this guy's a different breed. Armor-wise, Jet's look is sick. He's got that deep orange 212th scheme, but what makes him pop is the visor. It's got this almost ski goggle look, giving him a very clean tactical appearance, and since he's leading flame units, his armor's bulked up for heat resistance. Jet's got presence. He doesn't shout, doesn't joke, but when he gives orders, everyone moves. That tells you his men respect him, and that kind of respect in a unit like the 212th doesn't come easy. His weapon setup includes flamethrowers and thermal detonators, stuff that turns tunnels into ovens. It's nasty work, but Jet's the kind of clone who doesn't flinch from it. Honestly, he feels like a warrior bred for attrition, not just skill. You send Jet in when diplomacy's over and you need results now. He's not flashy, he's not friendly, but he gets the job done. Trap. Gone too soon, but not forgotten. Let's take a second to talk about one of the blink and you miss it clones from the 212th. Trap. Now first off, that name feels like foreshadowing, right? Trap shows up in the Citadel arc, and if you remember anything about that mission, you knew it was pure chaos. High security, prisoners, booby-trapped hallways, the works. Basically a nightmare. Trap was part of the clone squad tasked with infiltrating the Citadel to rescue Jedi and Republic officers. He's seen alongside Echo, Fives, and the squad, navigating tight corridors filled with mines and turrets. The mission was already risky, and Trap, he didn't make it. He was one of the first clones to fall on that op. And it hits different because you barely get to know him. No big speech, no dramatic slow-mo, just gone. Like so many other clones whose names didn't make it to the memorial walls. But here's the thing. Even though Trap didn't get a full arc or flashy armor, his name made it into the records. That means someone remembered him. Someone in that squad knew who he was. And in a war where thousands of clones were just numbers, that matters. He's a reminder of how fast it all happened, how real the losses were, and how many stories got cut short before they even started. Gear, the utility man of the 212th. Okay, now let's set the record straight. Gear and Gearshift are not the same dude. Where Gearshift leans more tech savvy and behind the scenes, Gear gives off that I've got exactly what we need in this backpack energy. He's the kind of clone that's always prepared. Need an extra detonator? He's got 3. Need to patch a trooper mid-fight? Boom, medpack out. He appears in the Clone Wars during the Umbara arc, which is already a heavy arc emotionally and tactically. Gear's role isn't massive, but it's noticeable. He's moving smart, covering flanks, and backing up Cody's squad with clean support plays. Now armor-wise, Gear doesn't have heavy custom paint, but there's one standout: extra equipment. His pauldron's thicker, more pouches on the belt, and a backplate that looks like it's carrying a full field kit, like a one-man support crew. Weapon of choice? Standard blaster rifle, but it's not about what he shoots, it's how he supports. And clones like Gear are underrated. They're not the face of the battalion. They don't get the hero moments, but without them, the mission falls apart. They're the ones who set up the comms, distribute the charges, reload ammo for the guy next to them mid-firefight. So yeah, Gear's name might not ring bells like Cody or Rex, but make no mistake, every battalion needs a Gear, and the 212th was lucky to have him. Sinker, the heavy hitter with no chill. Alright, we gotta talk about Sinker, because yeah, his name sounds like someone who's bad at swimming, but this guy, he was sinking droids left and right. Singer was part of Plo Koon's Wolf Pack originally, but he served alongside 212th units during joint operations, especially in early battles where units were often combined. Some fans debate whether he should be fully counted in the 212th, but based on his appearances with the 212th during missions, he earns his spot here. Design-wise, Sinker stands out with his bulky armor setup and heavier build. Dude looked like he bench-pressed B1 battle droids for fun. His helmet's got thick markings, dark red with stylized fangs, giving him this Predator vibe, like he was built for close quarters mayhem. And yeah, his preferred loadout? Dual DC-17 hand blasters. He wasn't sniping from afar. Sinker wanted to get in there, let the others play chess. He's flipping the whole table. He had a loud, kind of sarcastic energy, always bantering with Boost, his usual partner. Think of them as a classic buddy cop pair, except in full armor and always under fire. They'd argue in the gunship, take out 3 clankers, then argue some more. But under all that, loyalty. If Sinker was watching your 6, you were good. He's proved that not every clone had to be stoic or serious. Some of them were loud, gritty, and kinda hilarious, and still total professionals. Waxer, the clone who still haunts us. We already touched on Waxer earlier, especially his bond with Bole and their mission on Rylith, but to really understand why Waxer hits different, we gotta go deeper into his final mission. Umbara. This arc broke a lot of viewers and a lot of clones. Waxer's squad gets caught in one of the most twisted battlefield manipulations in Clone Wars history. Pong Krell, their Jedi commander, sends them into battle, but what he doesn't tell them is they're fighting their own brothers. Yeah, let that sink in. Krell tricks both clone squads into thinking the other is the enemy. No comms, no ID markers, just engage on sight. Waxer ends up on the front lines of that mess, and when the smoke clears, he's lying there, dying. His final words? It was another clone. It's chilling, because in that moment Waxer isn't injured, he's shattered. He realizes the truth and it kills him more than the blaster wound. He didn't die taking out droids or saving civilians, he died fighting a brother, and he didn't even know it. And that right there, that's why clones like Waxer stick with you, not because of flashy fights or big speeches, but because of how real their pain feels. Waxer cared, he built bonds, he wasn't made to hate, and yet, the war and the people who controlled it turned him into a pawn. And when he died, Bole didn't just lose a partner, he lost a part of himself.